Step out.
Samiri Freemichael is the taxi driver whose car was confiscated after a prostitution bust.
You're under arrest.
Where is he?
For solicitation of a prostitute.
No, I don't.
Yeah, okay.
Let's go.
Let's go this way.
She told me that I have 40. That's my understanding. I have 40. I say 40 is good money. I will give you a ride.
Instead, Samiri says police took him for a ride. But much later, after a judge heard the cops' undercover recording...
Where are you going?
Oh, I'm not going anywhere.
You have a place to go?
Huh?
Do you have a place?
Do I have a place? Yeah, I do. Around the corner.
Samiri was acquitted of soliciting a prostitute, though after he'd already paid a $1,000 civil fine to get his car back.
Do you think the city of Denver is making money off of people like you at your expense?
Yes. Yes, I believe.
In fact, a public records request by the problem solvers revealed Denver used its public nuisance ordinance to confiscate 1,851 cars in 2016 and made $2.4 million in the process. This year, the city is on pace to seize more than 2,000 cars.
Why is the city confiscating people's cars?
Because they can.
Greg Rawlings is a former assistant city attorney who used to file public nuisance cases himself.
What do you think is the city's motive?
Money.
He points out the city's public nuisance ordinance now includes 24 different crimes cops can use to impound your car. Some obvious, like any drive-by crime, some less obvious, like any 2 or more offenses for disturbing the peace within 180 days.
As you were prosecuting these cases, Greg, did you ever feel guilty about it?
I felt guilty about some. You'd have someone's mom coming in and say, I didn't know my son even had my car that night.
So is the city using a civil ordinance as a money grab?
No.
Kristen Bronson is Denver's city attorney and insists the city has nothing to be ashamed of.
Even one of your former city staff attorneys tells me this ordinance is being abused, that people's cars are being held for ransom for crimes they may later be acquitted of. Is that fair?
It's not being abused. No, this is an ordinance that's been in place for 20 years.
And the city will say, well, they can fight it in front of a civil hearing, right?
That's meaningless. No one wins civil hearings on that. The standard of proof's too low.
Is it fair to force people, basically with a gun at their head, to enter into a civil settlement when they haven't been convicted of the crime?
No one's holding a gun to anyone's head. These are voluntary settlements. Many folks have attorneys representing them, and they certainly have a right to counsel.
That's true. Samiri had Richard Gross representing him, but Gross says the public nuisance ordinance gives Samiri only one real option: to settle.
It's not really a fair deal that Samiri entered into. They had his vehicle, and the only way for him to get his vehicle back quickly was for him to sign an unfair stipulation.
I would say that probably means we're offering pretty fair settlements if everyone's wanting to take them as opposed to going to trial.
It doesn't sound fair, it doesn't sound right, and we're going to have to rein it in.
Representative Leslie Herod thought she was reining in abusive civil forfeitures when she helped pass a state law this year restricting law enforcement from seizing people's assets, like cars. The Denver District Attorney, a state agency, has a policy to only auction off cars from the impound lot after a conviction. But the city attorney doesn't require a conviction. As a result, the Denver DA only collected $24,000 last year off of 5 cars. Remember, the city attorney collected $2.4 million off of 1,851 cars.
If you sign a civil settlement, but then you're later acquitted of the crime, should you be able to get your money back?
If you're acquitted of a crime, I do believe that you should have a process to be able to get your money or property back, of course.
We should do what's right. A, giving his daggone car back, and B, giving the money for the impound back.
To steal a man's livelihood when he's found not guilty is the most despicable abuse of power that the city can exert.
To me, it's not fair.